Hello, friends. I am thrilled to be here, as always, with you guys. And so we can talk about transformations that happen during relocations. This is Stacy Sade, and you guys are listening to the Annestasis podcast. Today, we are very privileged to listen to and to talk to and have a chat with somebody that I have really gotten to meet professionally, but I've grown to really enjoy personally. And that, I think, is the best circumstance. Kim Tanner is the Director of Sales at the Opus Retirement, or Opus of East Memphis. Mm-hmm. And it is a glorious, we've talked about it in previous podcasts, but it's a glorious residential community for people that are 55 plus. To call it a retirement community, I think undersells it. I think it is really a lifestyle change, and I, for one, cannot wait to live there one day. But I digress. What I would love to do is introduce Kim. So welcome, Kim Tanner, to our show.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm thrilled to be here. It's such a pleasure to see you on this beautiful day in Memphis and talk a little about Opus and relocating.
Absolutely. Well, above and beyond that, Kim, I would love to introduce you and to have a conversation with you personally. You and your family moved to Memphis. If you hear my accent and you can listen to Kim's accent, you may learn that we are from different parts of the country. I'm a native Memphian. So Kim is a beautiful import from another part of the country, and there is a reason why you and your family moved here. We definitely want to talk about that and what the process was like, and then what your new life is like now. So in a few minutes, we're going to talk to Kim about her move to Memphis, Tennessee, what prompted it, what it was like, when we come back in just a minute.
Blues in the Basement. Blues in the Basement.
I was born in 71, so that was kind of the year that all of Al Green's hits starting to pop off.
Blues in the Basement on the Kadzukian Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Now we get to hear from Kim. We've talked to Stacy way too much. Let's talk to Kim for a little bit. Kim, what was the thing that brought you to Memphis, Tennessee?
Absolutely. Well, it was interesting in your life. You think you have plans and you think that you have ideas and places that you're going and things that you're doing. So I am, you can recognize with my voice, I'm sure, that I am a Midwesterner, and I was born and raised in Michigan and absolutely love Michigan. But there we have this thing called snow there, and it gets quite cold, and it is for many months of the year. It isn't.
It's not that one time
it's
a
not
year.
The one time. It's quite a bit. And my husband was in construction for many, many years in Michigan, and I remember every winter he'd just come home and he's like, "I hate it out there. I hate it out there." And we were blessed to have the jobs, but it was so cold. And so we came up with this idea that we would head to the South at some point. And we thought we'd have like a 5-year plan. And suddenly a position opened with the company I had been with at the time. And they were opening a new building in the greater Memphis area.
Oh, great. So a company you were already working with had a position in this area.
They did, yes. Okay. And so it went from this idea of being in the future to something that we were looking at literally around the corner. So, went through the process of applying for that position and did get it. And so the company I was with moved us from Michigan to Collierville, Tennessee, so the greater Memphis area. And it was an interesting experience to leave the place I'd known for 40 plus years. Mm-hmm. And, you create all around you support systems, and my family was there, and there were just so many things, an excellent church family, and just things that were so dear to our heart, and start over again. You have the excitement of a new position, but you have lots of just brand new things that are coming to you. So living in the Mid-South has been a huge blessing. I've loved every minute of it. There's so much learning that goes along with living in a new place, in a new area. and the Mid-South was wonderful for us. So a company came in and packed up our home. They put it in the back of a great big truck, and we moved into our home and didn't have any of our things for a little bit. And then that company comes and drops your things off and leaves them in heaps and says goodbye. And so finding places for things was a big part of getting moved in. And then you have this sense of unease. You've got a sense of, nothing being in the place that it belongs. And I think there's a process that we all go through in a brand new home in a brand new area with very little support system that says, I've got to create my nest. It's got to be this thing that everyone feels welcome in, that I know where to go and find things. So there's a task of making your kitchen be a workable kitchen, changing from the style and the setup that you had in a previous home and make it work in this one. Do you have the same size pantry? What kind of storage do you have? What kind of closets do you have? And then I wanted, as a mom, I'm a mom of 3. I wanted it to become a haven too for my children to come home and to be at peace and to be at home and be in this area.
Perfect. May I ask a question? Were they school age when you guys moved?
So our daughters were in college when we moved. So we left them. They'd already kind of experienced at least a semester or 2 of college.
Okay.
For one daughter, and then another daughter, she was in her second year. So they'd already established themselves as college students. Our son came as a junior in high school, though.
Wow.
And we came mid-COVID. And so we didn't know what we were dealing with in the world at the time. And so everything was new, everything was fresh, and you had to create your new normal, if you will. So I remember I had this incredible urge to create this home-like atmosphere that worked for us. And at the beginning, my husband was still heading back to Michigan to run his company, his building company.
You are kidding
every
me.
month. No.
Was he driving or flying?
Driving. Well, they would mix it up. But our son, we went ahead and let our son do online school. It was the easiest way to manage during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a junior, he could take his work with him. And so he established himself with my husband's company and became one of his workers when he wasn't doing school. And so my husband and son were back and forth to Michigan on a regular monthly basis. And I was, starting out new and working at the company I was with at the time. And so we shortly thereafter found an amazing church family that fit us beautifully. It's a very welcome church family. And so suddenly you started feeling more like home. You started finding your place in your people. And in the meantime, trying to manage a company from a long distance away, at some point my husband decided, you know what, I'm not sure that this is our goal anymore to keep that company open. Let me look at changing something around. So he opened a handyman company here in Memphis.
Yes.
And he runs it with my son. They own it together. But then that offered us this new conundrum of, okay, this house worked when you were traveling, but now when all the things for the company come to one site, it's kind of hard to live in a suburb. And so we started investigating options, and we moved again in order to have space. So this new move was about property. It was about being able to move out to a more country-like setting and have an opportunity for my husband's things that he needed for his business to have a place that was appropriate, and have a place that, we then could again create a new home. And that's really about the time I met you and Annestasis, and I had switched positions. Opus came calling, and I've been in senior living for 19 years now. And I was very excited with the prospect of coming to a new company. And it was at the opportunity that I had being at Opus as the director of sales that I had the blessing of meeting you and hearing what you had to offer to our residents, and got very excited about
is wonderful.
Right about between those two moves. So
that is amazing. So help me figure out the timeline. You get to Memphis. How long is the time from when you guys are in Collierville, which is a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee? How long are you guys in that original house? And how unpacked were you in that original house before you moved to the second location?
Absolutely. Well, when you have a company that moves you, they literally pick up everything. There's no downsizing. There's no thought process. It's you've got things, we box them, we take your things away. And so when we got to Collierville, there were a lot of things that immediately got unpacked, and then there's a lot of things that headed up to the attic. Mm-hmm. And so I realized in our second move that there were things I hadn't even opened in the in-between house. And that's when I started to realize that things might not be as important as I thought they were in the past.
Isn't that interesting?
It was fascinating. Yeah. So to answer your question, about 2.5 years that we lived in Collierville, and then realized that, and then started looking for the new home that we would be moving into in the country.
You bring up a point that I think is so huge. Companies are so gracious to move employees across the country. They'll do the moving truck and the packing. What I find interesting is who helps the person unpack them and get settled in, because that's when the anxiety ramps up. Am I correct?
Very much so.
I mean, you're dancing as fast as you can to get the new job up and running. You're dancing I'm going to speak to women with no particular, interest in it, but usually it falls upon the mother. Your new job, get children situated, get rooms situated, and it all seems to fall on the family. Although it is lovely that the expense was paid to get you here, seems to me that there might be a level of care that could certainly be considered for the transferee.
Absolutely. I think that, if I had used the term downsizing with my job for a very long time. When you're in senior living for this amount of time, talking to someone about leaving a 6,000, 4,000 square foot home and coming into a new apartment or a cottage seems daunting. And so you use that term a lot. But being someone in her 40s, I had never really thought about how important it was that I started downsizing my life to fit the new place we are in as a family. So we look at the new chapters that we open in our life, and suddenly, again, there were things that at one point were really important. You think about, the baby stages. You can't there's a point when you don't need that extra saucer anymore and you don't need the high chair. So you move on from that stage. But there's other stages that we move through as well. And you're exactly right. As I prepared for coming to the Mid-South and coming to Memphis, it was all about just getting our things moved. But then as I looked at my things, they weren't important to me anymore, so many parts of them. And to look at what was left behind, it was fascinating, because I remember the truck driver looking at me and saying, well, you did sign up for us to take all these boxes away so they weren't in your way. What do you want us to do with them? And I remember thinking, yeah, you're right. I don't want these boxes laying all around. And so he says, they will be put on a flat surface in the area that was written on the side of the box. So I say to him, great, that sounds wonderful, as we are trying so hard to stay out of the way of the crew who's bringing the items into our home. Little did I know or realize that I was about to walk in to the master bathroom, or the primary bathroom as we say now, and there are piles of things on any flat surface that could be found, which meant the floor and the bathtub and the countertops.
I'm telling you, I think in my heart of hearts, to affirm what you're saying, that's almost worse. It's almost worse to do that for someone, to someone, than it would be just to leave them in a well-labeled box with the inventory on it. It's supposed to be helpful, but I would imagine from what I hear from you, it is incredibly stressful.
I wanted to cry when I walked into the primary closet and saw every box that had been labeled that space opened up and dumped unceremoniously on the floor. There were no flat surfaces for them to dump a box. And so now my clothing is potentially in a pile. My shoes are no longer in the shoe boxes that I moved with them. They've fallen out because they were dumped over. And so I just remember thinking, this is not home. This is not the way we live. This is not acceptable. And so this incredible like mama bear desire to fix it. And then knowing that my children's rooms look the same. Every bathroom in the home looks the same. And it was quite a bit of realization to kind of go, that was very aggravating. I didn't realize when I answered the question what I was about to feel and see when I walked into those spaces.
100%. Well, you are really verbalizing, I think, what a lot of people experience. And I know with my company, at my company, what I always tell them is the packing piece is a necessary part. But the magic happens when we help someone get home, when we can replicate an environment so that someone can walk in and begin to live. Life is enough without, to me, in my experience, everything you own just flipped over and just right in your face. So,
yes.
Wow, that is a lot. And then you did it again when you moved the second time. Did you guys have a different process? Obviously, the moving company wasn't coming.
Right. When your company's not moving you, you look at the price, you look at the cost, and you start to figure out what you can do. And as a family, we decided that we could do it ourselves. So now I'm the mom of 3 adult children. And at that point, our son had graduated from college. We had the help of our daughters coming back from college to help us get things moved. And it was in a time, for your home to sell in the suburb of Memphis in Collierville, Tennessee. And then, the new home to become available. We did it ourselves. And I remember thinking as my husband was packing the back of the U-Haul type vehicle, how much easier it is to have someone else do it on your behalf. There's a lot of stress involved. There's a lot of emotion that goes into that part. And every single person in the room, even though our ultimate goal is the same, there are very different feelings about what that goal should look like. And so now you have this new dynamic of potentially, some bickering going on. You've got different folks focusing on, I wanted to be there at this time, but we didn't always voice it well and communicate well with each other. And so now you add that dynamic to already the stressful part of buying a new home, moving to a new home, leaving an old. We had amazing neighbors. I still adore our neighbors from that neighborhood and think about them often, but we had to go. I mean, the next step, the next chapter looked different. And so I remember thinking how challenging it was to stay positive and to stay pleasant with one another. And then ultimately all those pieces that go, how do you feed everyone when you've just emptied out all the cabinets? How do you, just all the pieces that are involved in moving? You've got a freezer full of meat. You have, potentially a refrigerator full of, things that are, there's just so much to the process of that you don't realize until you're right in the middle of it. And then you did a wonderful presentation for our prospective residents about downsizing and moving right about that time. And I remember thinking, one of the things you shared was look around your home and talk to your spouse, your loved one, your partner about what matters to you. What is a piece that absolutely has to go with you? And as I went back home and looked around the space, I thought, I'm a lot less attached to my things than I thought I was. And suddenly I thought I could easily get rid of. And I started to think in my mind what that would look like as we potentially downsize again in the future, and doing myself a favor of starting to downsize those things and letting them go. Perhaps a young married couple could use this. Perhaps when I listen and hear a need in my community, perhaps I can meet that need with something that I have that I don't need anymore.
100%. It is really, I think the big myth is that we downsize. You touched on it as senior adults when we are losing square footage. The truth is it can be a way of life.
Yes.
So that it is not so arduous. And as children, when you and I first met, we talked about your dad, we talked about family members. As we witness that process, I think that's the takeaway for us to realize how imperative it is that we do this on a regular basis for everyone's sake. For everyone's sake.
Yes. I lost a grandmother about a year ago, and my grandmother had beautiful things, but they were things. And so when you talked about as, grandchildren, what do you want from grandma's house? We want grandma. And so sometimes it's nice to have a memory, to have one piece, to have something that reminds you, but we've never attached our love for our grandmother with things necessarily. She's the special part. And so it was interesting to me to kind of see things that meant a great deal, that my grandma had a certain pattern that she collected in a dish, and she collected it and it sat in this gorgeous hutch that no one ever used these pieces. And I remember thinking, she's like, well, your daughters are going to get married someday. Yeah, maybe, but my daughters probably want something that can go in the dishwasher. This is a beautiful piece that has to be hand washed and then put back in a hutch for folks to, and we never ever used them. Mm-hmm. Growing up, when we were all together, we were often eating off of paper plates or something recyclable that we could use, and not this, these pretty pieces that meant a lot to her because it was a collection. It was something special, but it didn't transfer. And to this day, I don't believe that any of those pieces ended up in any of our homes. I
understand that completely. Well, you have certainly painted a very clear picture about the process. And we've talked about, a variety of things. What I would love to find out is, because that's what this is all about, is what was the transformative life? What has been birthed because of that labor? And when we come back in just a minute, Kim Tanner, who is the Director of Sales at Opus Retirement of East Memphis, we're going to hear about, after all of that work, what has been the new life that has been produced. We'll be back in just a minute.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey.
The journey.
New sheriff.
When you leave this planet, leave it in a better shape than you found it.
Right.
And that's kind of how we live.
Watch The Journey on the Kadzukian Network.
Okay, everybody, now this is the ta-da. We want to hear from Kim about what the new life for your family has been produced after all of the work. 2 moves, not just one, after relocating into a completely different state because of a job. And, we barely touched on it, but Kim came in town for one job. Mm-hmm. And that ended up turning into not a workable situation. So not only was she pivoting house-wise, she was also pivoting job-wise. These are the top stressors in life. Mm-hmm. And, we act like it's just a function, like we're going to the grocery store. They are truly up there with death and taxes and divorce and all those other things. So you are in it. Mm-hmm. You have gotten on the other side of it. You and I have met, thank goodness, by then. And tell me about, what is life like now? What would you say has been the big new transformation, new life?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's been interesting to me. Again, I mentioned chapters. I mentioned, different processes that I've gone through. It's been fascinating, even the difference that 6 months makes in my mindset. As I look around the large home that we've moved to, the second move, I say, this is too much house. And so here I am going, again, I mentioned adult children. So, do you need to have a house that will allow your adult children to come home and have a bedroom for certain times during the year? Or do you need to have a sensible sized home in space that you actually use with items that you truly love and downsize your life again? And I think I found myself in that place that says, this space doesn't matter nearly as much as I thought it would 6 months ago. So I'm intrigued by that. I'm fascinated by it. I'm challenged by it, because those of us that have recently purchased a home are probably not necessarily looking to move out of it again. But just when I touch something in my home, I ask myself the question, does this matter to me? And if the answer is no, and I can function with less, now I'm looking for an outlet. Is it a Goodwill donation? Is it something that someone else could use? Is it something that I could gift to someone? Or is it something that has been through its life and it needs to move on? And so I really love that and getting the chance to meet you and just be more real about things. I've loved it. And so I am challenging myself very regularly on what truly matters to me as a mom, as a wife, as an employee, and then finding a way to change the way I think about things and make changes in my life accordingly.
I love that. And I guarantee you, without even knowing, tell me how that has transferred into your ability to relate with a family who is sitting in your office. Now that you've got personal experience and you're not just using the word downsizing with no real knowledge about what that means, how has that been a blessing in the life of the professional work that you do?
Yes, in the professional work that I do, I think it's really important that, number one, people don't feel alone. Oftentimes they come to me and they look at the situation and it's the first time they've dealt with it. But it's not the first time your neighbor has, or someone at work has, or someone else in your circle of influence has dealt with this. And so saying out loud, you know what? You're not alone in this. I can share with you some experiences that others have had, and this is what I've learned from their experiences. Then I can set realistic expectations. There is going to come a time when your loved one is shocked that no one in the family wants that pattern that they've collected, or their collection of, whatever memorabilia or items or something that, perhaps they've loved elephants and their home is full of elephants. You're going to be very surprised that your grandchildren might only want one elephant to remember your collection by, and that all that you've done, could be summarized in, I love my grandma and she loves elephants. So we set that expectation, that new expectation with folks as we talk to them. And then I say too, if you are busy and this is something that you are going, I don't even know where to start. Guess what? We have someone for that. And I can share with you the experiences that folks have had that have said, oh, I need, like we did. Oh, we can do this ourselves. Sure, you can. You absolutely can do this yourself. How much would you love to have someone come into your home, share what is very important to you, explain what needs to happen next, and they say, we've got it. We have the connections, we have the people, we have the knowledge base, and we have the skill set to be able to take these items, set up your new apartment, cottage, home, and welcome you in, and that headache is completely gone. I don't even know what that would have looked like for someone like me. And I know the residents that I have worked with who've used Annestasis can actually walk into a place that's pre-set up and breathe and feel at home. And that stressful process that they went through in their head did not have to equate to a stressful process that they were living with every single day, because now it's been taken, that piece has been taken off their plate as they focus more on, how are you doing? I'm going to be your daughter right now and take you for lunch while someone is in your home preparing these things. We are going to now walk into this new place and it's pre-set up. So it's very interesting for me to tell folks, the money that you spend, the process that you spend to get someone to help you with this process will be so worth it in the end, because this is what you can expect. So setting expectations, explaining along the line. And then when folks look at us, they realize that they're talking to a professional in an industry that has done this many, many times before. And so their hearts can be put at ease and they can really look forward to the next chapter in their own lives of someone living in a retirement community and enjoying all of the benefits that it provides without that headache of packing, setting up, unpacking, figuring out what actually is important and what will fit safely, and then living their life. And so those of us that can talk about things matter less to the generations that are coming behind us than they did to us. And when we have a better relationship with things, we can put our focus on our relationship with people, and we can make a difference in the lives of others.
I think that is so powerful, because the truth of the matter is these transitions, just like for you and your family, that's stressful enough. And if you don't have the added stress of where is my toothbrush, I think that life can begin anew faster, better. And I think that's lovely. What about the rest of the family? I know your husband and son are doing good things around this area. They've gotten busy, I'm sure.
They do. They own precision maintenance and handyman services. And so we've been very blessed that, they have referrals and folks that are talking to them. And so just today, they're out on Walnut Grove Road taking care of some folks. And so I love that they were able to establish themselves in this market. It's certainly a needed service to have that available. So their company has done well. We're very grateful for the friends that we've made along the way. You know, when you've made a friend and you've been able to provide them with a service, and then you can refer that friend out, like I do with Annestasis every day when I talk with folks. It really is a beautiful way to share that knowledge and to share the blessings that come with someone that's so knowledgeable in what they do and getting it done. And Opus has done amazing things too because of those relationships. So I think that, there's a friend that I've met from Opus as well as Stacy that really talks about it's all about connecting people and really finding out what you need. You know what? I've got some people for that, and starting to interconnect our circle of influence with other folks' circle of influence and get them their needs met. So we love our home. Again, we have the same church family. So my husband and son are doing great. Our daughters, one has graduated from college, since gotten married, lives in a different state. She returned to the Midwest, to Wisconsin with her husband. And then our oldest daughter will be finishing college here in a semester, and she'll have her nursing degree. So we're very pleased. It's been a great time to be in the Mid-South and to grow our family and to see where they are today.
Well, we're so blessed to have you. I love when people move to this community. I love it when people are sharing the whole of their experience. We're not having a Kim Tanner conversation as it just relates to your professional job. You are a whole human being, and your move and transition affected many people and many things. And I love hearing about the new, brighter day that was created. But you went through the ringer. You absolutely went through the ringer to get there. There was, and I say it over and over, we want to get to the palace. We're going to have to swim the moat. And sometimes that's quite a thing. So thank you for coming to this area. Thank you for spending time with them. Thank you for all that you've done to help spread the word about Annestasis and what it is we want to do for the community. And thank you for continuing to bless, especially senior adults that are really in this space. For the first time, I really think when our generation, and really I'm kind of there, so I'm not even acting like I'm not there. I'm there. But for people that are 20, 30 years away from retiring, I think we will be much more educated based on the experience that we've had with our family members. This is a new phenomenon. These beautiful retirement communities, that is not what happened when my grandmother was looking at space. They did not exist where it's this life-giving, activity-filled. It was more of a last-stop hotel, which is really the anxiety that I see in the senior community. They've got in their head, well, when my mother went, it was essentially a dressed-up hospital room.
Yes.
Maybe with a sitting area. And what is the reality now is just community as we wish it could be done in every perfect area.
So much of retirement communities today have everything to do with enhancing the life of the resident that has chosen that lifestyle. So we have an opportunity to, clean the apartment or the cottage for the resident. We are preparing 3 meals a day for that resident. We are taking kind of the headache of home ownership away with maintenance-free living, and we've turned it into, as much as they want to be involved in something different and focusing on the hobbies and the joys that life brings them in other ways. And I love that Opus has become the elegant senior living in East Memphis that we've seen. As every single resident moves in, they change the dynamic slightly of the community in a beautiful way. When Opus was designed, it was right next to the Dixon on the corner of Park and Cherry. Which is a beautiful art gallery in Memphis. It's a lovely
facility here. So that's what Kim is describing.
Yes. So the Dixon is, they have gardens and galleries. And so Opus is very, very close to that space. So the idea became, let's support the art. Let's support what East Memphis has and Memphis has to offer the world with art, music, dance, theater, all these different parts that we so much enjoy and allow just to be a small part of our life sometimes. And let's be reminded of this every day. So when you walk into Opus, you walk into a space that's stunning, it's elegant, and it's definitely not like any other retirement community you've walked into recently.
That is 100% true. That's 100% true. And so many of the communities are lovely, each one having a different personality, a different feel.
Yes.
And I think you described Opus beautifully in saying the elegance piece is definitely there. Well, there's so much life to live on the other side of a relocation.
Yes.
And sometimes right in the middle of it, if you're like me, it felt like I might die. At some point, I felt like I may not survive this. And what you have shared is another beautiful story about how life is transformed on the other side of a very stressful season, and how continuing on moving forward, you will be lighter and brighter and more mindful in your life moving forward.
It's so true. Yes.
I love that. Well, Kim, it has been a pleasure. It always is a pleasure to hear your sunny voice. I wish you so much success at Opus and so much success with Precision and all that your family is doing. So we'll talk again soon.
I look forward to it so much. Thank you for the opportunity, Stacy.
We'll look forward to it. Okay, friends, that is another wonderful story. We're wrapping up another transformation based on a relocation. Join us next time, and we will have new stories to tell about fabulous people that are also going through this process. Thank you for joining the Annestasis podcast. We are located in all the places that you can listen to a podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple or all the other places. You can absolutely find us on annestasis.com, ANNESTASIS.com, for any questions moving forward. This is Stacy Sade, and we will continue at another time. Thank you.